launch detected.
What is up, guys? My name is Kevin Johnson. You might know me as Cloakin, and I'm here at Blizzard Entertainment for our first of what I hope will be many dev Q&As for Heroes of the Storm. We are going to take your questions, so I know you have them, and if you'd like to share them with us, please do submit them to Twitter using the hashtag HeroesQA, and we will pull them later in the show. But before we get to those questions, I would like to introduce two of our awesome welcome guests. To my left, the one and only Dustin Browder, Game Director for Heroes of the Storm. Thanks for being here, Dustin.
Very cool.
Awesome. To Dustin's left is Phil Gonzalez. Phil is a senior artist on the Heroes development team.
What's up, Kevin?
Thank you as well, Phil. It's
No
good to have
problem,
you.
man.
You guys might recognize Phil from the BlizzCon panel as well for Heroes. Quite the orator and speaker. So, all right, guys. So BlizzCon, I'd like to talk a little bit about that. So last time we heard about the game, last time the community got to hear about the game, what was the team's response? I know that the community seemed pretty excited and interested in the game. I know for myself, I thought it was a really incredible success for the team and for the company as well. But I'd like to hear what you guys thought and what the guys in the trenches making the game thought. So yeah, what's the response?
It was pretty crazy. I know we were pretty nervous going into BlizzCon as to what would actually happen at the show. We'd taken a lot of risks in both the design and in the art in putting together that demo. And you know, we'd play tested it for sure, but we didn't have a beta or anything. You know, we hadn't gone really live with it before. We hadn't put it in front of sort of real players before. We just done it internally. And so I think we were very nervous about how it would be received, and we were just very hopeful that it got some attention and that people didn't completely hate it. That was sort of where we were at, like, please just don't hate it, right? And so when we went out there and, you know, we did the announcement and the audience got very, you know, excited for that cinematic that our cinematics team did, which I thought was incredible.
That was an awesome moment.
And then, you know, we started to see the line for the game grow over the 2-day show, and it started on Friday, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger as we went through the weekend there. And I think on Saturday night, it was around our booth, and it was around the DirecTV booth as well. And some people were reporting an hour 45, 2-hour waits just to play Heroes of the Storm. I mean, that's like, you know, Indiana Jones kind of along the way. You know, that was just incredible that people would, you know, line up for that opportunity to play the game. And so that was absolutely amazing. We didn't expect that we could get that kind of response before we had a beta, before we'd, you know, had a chance to really get it out there. But the response was absolutely overwhelming from the BlizzCon community. And then we also took the build to G-Star.
That's right.
You know, later, I think it was soon after.
Sure.
And the response was similar. You know, the surveys we did at BlizzCon, the surveys we did at G-Star had very similar results in terms of how much people really liked all the stuff that we were doing. And so it was absolutely incredible to get that kind of response.
Yeah, and we've been, I think, cooking this thing for about 3 years, more or less, and it's kind of funny. People kind of forgot what we've been up to the whole time, and even internally within the company, they're like, wow, this game is here? Because we've been so wrapped up in Hearthstone. And even the internal devs are like, hey, when's a build coming out? Like, we want to play, and that is awesome. We had no idea people were just going to be so wrapped up by it.
Yeah, that's got to be so encouraging for you guys and for your teams. I think just, I can even tell, like, just a palpable uplift in spirit of the team just feeling like, I think we're going to do it. I think we got something here. I think we can figure it out. So Dustin, you talked about being nervous, and I know that the team probably considered a lot of the decisions going into BlizzCon potentially risky, both in terms of you know, the genre in general, as well as maybe what the company thought about some of these decisions. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, what was it you guys felt going into BlizzCon where was issues of concern, where you thought you were taking a risk, and you know, in the response that came out of that?
So a lot of the stuff we were doing was kind of new, both to us and to the genre as a whole. Like, we're doing this thing with multiple maps, you know, where we've got all these different maps, each with its own sort of unique strategic requirements, each with its own objectives and goals. You know, maps like Cursed Hollow, where you're trying to get tributes for the evil Raven Lord, was sort of the first one we did. And then as we got closer and closer to the show, we started to feel like this is working. We need to do more of this. You know, we at one point we had Cursed Hollow with tributes on it, and we had Cursed Hollow without. And Cursed Hollow is much more like the traditional 3-lane map, right? They came out of, you know, Warcraft 3, right? And so it's much more like that. And so at that point we were playing kind of both, and we started to notice we stopped playing the old one.
Oh, interesting.
And whenever we go back to test the old one, people say, do we have to? Can't we do the new one? So,
Right.
so we'd done that, and then we came over, and as we get closer to BlizzCon, we felt like we had to do more. And so then we did Haunted Mines, which was the greatest, most insane extension of the idea, where there's a whole area of the map that's underground, and you're going underground, and you're killing these skeletons, and you're trying to collect the skulls to make your own grave golem. And so there's this PvE component to it, sort of competitive PvE going on underground, and that was crazy last minute. I know I went to the art guys, said, we're doing a new map, and they're like, no, you're not, that's insane. Like, there's this underground part, it's gonna be cool. And they're like, oh my God, you're insane. But you guys crushed it. Like, you got absolutely pulled it together, and so that was huge for us. And then you look at stuff we've been living with for years, though, like 20-minute games, stuff like having a talent system as a core way to sort of level up is an idea we've had for a long time. Ideas for heroes like Abathur was also sort of a last-minute addition. This is a commander hero who doesn't really fight. He can kind of fend off an enemy, but he can't really fight, on his own. And so all of these things sort of came together really in the last couple of months and sort of gelled, with the team and gelled inside the game. And then to see that go out there and see the fans sort of, the players get really excited about it was really fun for us.
That's awesome. How about you, Phil, on the art side?
On the art side, the creative freedom, we talked about this at the BlizzCon panel, that was huge, and that was driving our team, I think, the whole time. And people expected us to do a Warcraft map, a StarCraft map, and a Diablo map, and we thought, we have some of our own ideas we really want to try, and we were absolutely trying those. I mean, the Mines is a prime example where we made that idea happen so fast, and we're literally shooting video the week of BlizzCon, but that map got us so wound up. We're like, we got to do this, and we did that to almost everything, the skins, the heroes. I mean, I think the craziest part is the BlizzCon build is just a small fraction of all this stuff we keep experimenting with and having a blast making.
Yeah.
And the skins alone, I mean, these things are insane, right? Like, the stuff these guys are doing is absolutely nuts. I mean, we just, on the design side, we just sort of wait and watch and go, what are you doing next? And then they'll just, we're doing this. Like, that's great, dude, that's awesome, right? So they'll do stuff, like Medic Uther, which is absolutely,
so cool.
Is really pushing what you would expect from these characters. And these characters, a lot of them take themselves really pretty seriously. Like, these are real tough guys or real tough gals, and they're doing their thing, But you guys are really, I think, having a lot of fun with it. And we get some crazy characters in there.
Yeah, it's awesome because people kind of know the characters and they really gravitate towards them. And the first thing that they cross-examine is like, well, what if Uther turned into a Blood Cell Buccaneer? Or we go to an alternate version of it, like, what if Illidan didn't betray anybody? And those ideas get people just as wound up. And those have been going full steam ahead the whole time, and I can't wait to show everybody that stuff.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So on the subject of risk and stuff, like, you struck some really solid wins at BlizzCon with proving some of the decisions that you and the team had made. How far do you guys feel like you want to take that? Do you feel like you're on the path? Do you feel like you've got a good mix going? Is there more to flex and figure out in regards to taking these risks? What's the mindset of the game design side when it comes to that?
Well, there's definitely more we can do with our talent system. This is one of the things we've been working on for quite a while, and the slice that people saw at BlizzCon was just a very narrow piece of what we were offering. We want to make sure that adds a lot of depth to the experience, where you can really customize the loadout you bring with you to a game. So you've got 3 talents to choose from, but you actually had maybe 10 talents in that tier that you were picking from, and you decide which 3 do you want to bring into battle. And then in battle, you make a decision again as to which one you want to have. So there's a lot more depth we want to get into the game on that side. And that'll open up a lot of crazy potential for us as well. When you look at stuff like the maps, I think we're hitting a pretty good stride on that. I think you'll definitely expect to see more variants of the ones we have, but I think you're going to see some more as well. In the new year, we're definitely going to work on some stuff to see if we can continue to push map design even further. But at the end of the day, if we stopped here, I'd be pretty happy. Like, it feels really good. And then in hero design, we've got a bunch of really great heroes, but we'd have to have more in the Abathur category. Heroes that are just like, wow, what? How do I play this guy? This guy has nothing to do with anything I've ever seen before. We'd like to have a few more of those in our repertoire so that when he goes out there, players can look at this game and go, whoa, these guys really did do some creative work here. They did come up with something I've not really seen before.
That's awesome. And Phil, on the art side, I think one of the cool things I've really respected about the decisions that teams have been making is, some of these battlegrounds are actually new kind of story territory or even like lore territory for the company. They might not be, the expected maps, and they have these characters, right? Like the Ravenlord on Cursed Hollow, right? And I think these are kind of new story bits for Blizzard. What's the mindset about that? Like, is there more to be explored there? What can we expect in terms of those sort of new lore bits that we're finding with this whole Nexus experience.
I definitely think there's more. I think one of the things that Sammy, the art director, really loves about this project is we get to go kind of back to our roots and creating new Blizzard experiences, and we get to bounce that off of the established stuff. So people have this awesome point of reference, and we say, you know, the Nexus is going to take you to the worlds you know and new worlds on top of that. And so everyone's kind of getting geeked up over, yeah, we could do this and a lot of possibilities that don't necessarily work out in Warcraft, Diablo, or StarCraft. They find a home in the Nexus now, and that geeks us way up.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Awesome, guys. Well, I'm thrilled. I know you guys have been working hard since BlizzCon. Can you talk a little bit about what your focus has been since then, in terms of your teams and where you're heading?
Yeah, in terms of the art team, there's a lot of polish going on, getting everything ready for showtime. There's hero skins are constantly being generated, and like I said, there's ideas constantly getting thrown out for those where we're just exploring these really, really exciting ideas, stuff that we would want to use as players. The maps are going full steam ahead. We're seeing some additional new exploration. We have some familiar territory we're going to build out, and I think that's going to really please the fans. Like, all the players are just going to have something that they'll find in there and love.
That's awesome.
Yeah, on the sort of the rest of the game, right? Like what we showed at BlizzCon was a build very specific for that show. Sure. You know, it's designed for you to come in, sit down, play it for 20 minutes, and move on so somebody else could come in and take that seat. And so there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen before we're ready to go with a live beta. So we need to have, you know, social systems in play, and we need to have custom lobbies ready to go, and we need to have, you know, ways to view replays and ways to rejoin a game, you know, if you crash out. You know, all of those kinds of systems need to happen. So there's a whole section of the team working on that stuff.
Yeah.
On the design side, you know, there's more heroes that we have to do. There's that talent build out that we have to do. We make sure that game has all of that depth and all that ability to customize that hero. So every time you sit down to play, you could have a very different Uther experience than you had 5 minutes ago, right? Or a very different Arthas experience than Phil is having right now, right? You can have this really customized experience. We want to get all of that depth built into the experience. At the same time, we had some comments from people at BlizzCon, especially for newer users, that this is kind of overwhelming, which it totally was at BlizzCon. You came in, we threw a bunch of heroes at you. We probably threw you in the deep end with a bunch of really hardcore players, and good luck, buddy. And maybe you got rolled. And so there's a whole sort of new user experience we want to get on top of that as well. So as BlizzCon was sort of the middle of the experience, right? Or a snapshot of the middle of the experience. It's not even all of that. And we need to get more of that end game experience, more of that really, you know, competitive experience built into the game, and that ability to sort of fiddle with and manipulate the experience the way you want it to be. And we need to get that new user experience in, so that you're just coming in, you have no idea what's going on here. You ramp up into it nicely. You get in, it feels welcoming, it feels safe, and you feel like prepared for all the danger we're going to throw at you here in just a few minutes, right?
You mentioned a pretty potent word there. You mentioned the word beta. I'm bringing this up because I obviously already get requests for access to the beta. You know, God, when is that happening? All of those things are coming, and I'm sure there's probably plenty on Twitter right now asking the same thing. Can you give us any info or thoughts on that? Like, what's the mindset around beta and when that would happen? You know, not necessarily looking for exact dates, but.
Well, we're going to get it as soon as we can. You know, we're playing it internally now, and we want to be in a position where we can go just as soon as we possibly can. You know, we're soon, but I don't know exact dates. It really depends a lot on the technology. And there's so many uncertainties in software development, right? And so many things can go wrong as we're trying to develop out the technology that allows us to do everything we want to do for this beta. That an exact date, I don't know. And I'm not trying to be coy or mean, right? Like, I'm not trying to give people a hard time with this. It's just we don't really know yet. But we're driving for it as hard as we possibly can. We want to get it into everybody's hands as soon as it's ready.
Right, and we are testing it internally, right?
Yeah, totally.
We're playing it now, but as Dustin said, for those of you out there who have been asking, there is no beta going on right now, so no keys. Also be wary of sites that claim they have them. They just simply don't exist right now, so just know that. Okay, guys, well, I think we should jump into some questions. I know we have plenty that are rolling in. If you're out there and you do have questions you'd like to ask to either Dustin or Phil, please hop on Twitter, use the hashtag HeroesQA. We're going to start looking at some right now. All right, let's take a look at our first. This one from @PromisedPain. How does Heroes of the Storm differ from your standard MOBA? Talked a little bit about this, but can you bullet it down? What do you think?
I can try. So I would say there's a couple of critical factors. I think the most powerful one from a gameplay perspective is the use of our maps and map designs to create new strategies for the players. So as you come to a map, it's really going to change how you play, how you want to use the talents on your hero, maybe in some degree which hero you want to be playing and what composition your team wants to have if you're playing very competitively. So we want to have that as a component where players are sitting down to play, just like it is in StarCraft. When you sit down and play StarCraft, once you know StarCraft, if you're first playing StarCraft and you don't know, this isn't a factor for you. But when you're sitting down to play StarCraft and you see, what map you're on, what position the enemy's in, what race. Right. And those are all incredibly important factors in determining how you play the next 20 minutes of this game. We want to have a similar experience where you sit down, you look at your allies, you look at your enemies, you look at the map you're on, you go, oh, I know what I need to do. That's going to change this talent, right? And it has that kind of impact on your play experience. And so we feel like that's a big part of what we're trying to create here, something that has a lot of variation in how the game is played. I think one of the other most important things for our game is all of the heroes from all of our games coming together in one spot. We've got heroes in many cases that have, 10, 20 years maybe of lore behind them. They've got movies, they've got games, they've got novels, they've got comic books, all of this stuff. So these are heroes that I think a lot of players are going to get really excited about. Heroes I get excited about playing. I get a chance to play Arthas. That's really fun for me to be able to play with him in this environment, this kind of light environment. This is the Nexus, right? Yeah,
and that's a huge benefit of having these characters. We get to apply the Blizzard aesthetic to characters. We haven't gotten to play Arthas since Warcraft 3, I think.
Sure, yeah.
And we always kind of look at these experiences in terms of, if I got to control Diablo for the very first time in a Blizzard experience, what is my expectation? Right. And that is something we constantly talk about on the design side of which abilities are the abilities we need to do, and we love jamming on that stuff because we're fans of our own games, and bringing that to life, that's a huge experience that we really enjoy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I think the last bit, there's obviously tons of stuff, right? That's just across, we're trying to do everything we can to make every part of the game as good as we possibly can, and we're not afraid to challenge anything, right? Yeah. That it's sort of core that's been out there that was invented in Warcraft 3 or wherever else, right? But the last one I think for me that it seems really minor, but it is a big difference on how the game feels is a shorter game length. So we're running 20, sometimes 25-minute games, sometimes 15-minute games, and we feel like having played so much StarCraft and Warcraft 3 over the years, that there's sort of a butter zone there for what feels good for an online competitive experience. Like I've invested enough that I really care if I win, but I haven't invested so much of my day that if I lose, it's just the worst thing that's ever happened to me, right? So we feel like that's sort of the sweet spot. You can get in 2 to 3 games over a lunch, it feels really good to us, and it feels really fast-paced. There's a lot of action, and it seems like a really sort of minor thing, but it has a huge impact on how the experience feels when you play.
Yeah, sure. Awesome. Well, let's grab another question. This one from @PYP Heroes. There will be some environment elements in the maps that increase heroes' movement or abilities. Actually, it's a question. Will there be some environment elements in the maps that increase heroes' movement or abilities? Any thoughts on that?
Well, we've got right now, I think the most obvious example that's probably the Dragon Knight, right? Where this is a map called Dragonshire, where you have to capture 2 obelisks, an obelisk of the sun and an obelisk of the moon. And when you do, you open up the Dragon Shrine. And then somebody from your team, one of the heroes that you've agreed to, you guys have chosen, or somebody who just happens to be there, can go up to the shrine and he can, channel on the statue and suddenly become the Dragon Knight, become this mighty warrior. And this character, moves quickly. He can kick enemy heroes about 3 screens away, like just give them the boot and boo, off they go. And he has all these powers that he can use. And you only got a limited duration that you can use this character for. But once you got it, right, the whole map turns red, and you guys have got like cinders falling from the sky. It looks awesome, so cool, right? Like, oh, the Dragon Knight is here, right? And so at that moment, suddenly the team without the Dragon Knight is like, oh, okay, here we go. And they got to step back. They got to find where the Dragon Knight's going to go. Probably top lane right now. And they've got to try to hold the line right there, right? And so it becomes this game of attack and defend with one of the players in this sort of unstoppable killing machine kind of mode, right? Where you can run around and just smash anything to his heart's content. So that's an example, but I think it's a cool idea, and I think we can definitely do more with this.
Cool.
Yeah, whenever those map mechanics emerge, we embrace them as fully as possible. I mean, the Ghost Ship, the Dragon Knight, anything we've done like that, the map becomes all about that. So who knows what'll happen. It'll look cool.
What's so cool about that example, right, is that, the Ghost ship was something you guys brought, right? Like, you guys were like, we're going to have a ship on this map, and then we kind of want it, and then we started talking about using it, and you're like, well, if you're going to use it, I want it in the middle of the map, right? And like, oh, if it's in the middle of the map, and we're like, well, we got to have paths around it, and you guys are like, well, if there's paths around it,
How does it get there?
How does it get there? How does it get in and out? And so that was, it's a Ghost ship. It could just float in and out, right? So it all sort of came together, and that was one that I loved because it was largely, if not even completely, inspired by art, right?
Yeah.
You guys had done some cool stuff, and that sort of inspired the game designers. And I think that's where this game has been, really exciting. We've always had quite a bit of this, but it's been really fun in this game to bounce back and forth because we have so much freedom in this environment to come up with game mechanics, and you guys have so much freedom on the art side.
Yeah.
I feel like the two together is creating something pretty unique for us.
Yeah, and the Nexus brings those ideas out because in the StarCraft universe, we have ghosts, but they're people.
Right.
And
They're very specific.
They can't walk through walls like that.
Right,
So
right.
we get all these cool kind of like, oh, thank God we're mixing this all up. We get these possibilities that
cool.
are really, really beneficial to the game. It's awesome.
That's really cool. All right, let's do another. This one from @AKA Rex. Will we see characters from older Blizzard SNS titles like Lost Vikings or Blackthorn? It's a great question.
We have a list on the dev side, and it's about half a mile long by now.
pretty long.
And believe me when I say those guys are definitely on there, and the design guys we work really closely with of what experience are we at right now and what would be the best addition at this point, and some of those guys are definitely coming up soon.
I gotta tell you, I don't know if Lost Vikings is the best addition at this point, but those guys are happening, whether we want them to or not.
That is
right?
true.
We got that question so much at BlizzCon. I think almost every interview I finished was, and Lost Vikings? Was like how it always closed out. So, we came back, and that's one thing I love about BlizzCon, right, is you get that kind of feedback, right? Like, I thought Lost Vikings were cool, but I never would have guessed that it would have that kind of, no, I want Lost Vikings, right? Like that,
People were
wow,
crazy
okay.
about it, yeah.
So I know that there's a design in progress now on Lost Vikings. No promises, internet, right, as to whether this is going to happen for sure, because obviously we could not like it, but it's definitely something we're working on. It's definitely something that we're excited about doing, and I think it should be really cool.
You heard it first here, folks. You heard it first. All right, so let's do another. This one from @FractaPlankton. Games like this have a reputation for being hostile to newbies. What are you planning for the new player experience? You talked a little bit about this earlier, Dustin. Is there anything else you want to talk in terms of even just strategy about the approach?
Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can do for the new user experience, and obviously we haven't gotten to the point of testing it yet. One of the things we like to do here at Blizzard, and a lot of game companies do this, where we bring in new users and we plunk them down literally sometimes at our desks, and we go, go. And we sit there with a notebook and watch them suffer through the travesty we put them through, right? So we're going to go through that process. We're going to see what we really need to do for these guys. But we can guess, right, having played other games and having experienced this many times ourselves. I mean, the first line of defense is how we designed the game to begin with. So we've designed the game to be a little shorter.
Yeah.
So you're not quite as angry if you're stuck. And if you're losing, you're not losing for as long, right? So, and we've designed it with a team experience point pool so that you're not suddenly way behind the enemies or even your own allies and you're not able to even play anymore, right? And that's not what we want. That works for some games and it works very well, to be clear. But for us, we wanted to have the game that was, this is the team game. We're working together as a group to be successful. So those are the basics of the gameplay stuff, and we're hitting as much as we can. Things like, you really can't steal kills from your allies. Right. If you see somebody and he's a bad guy, get him. It's okay.
Right.
There's no problem with you getting him. It's good for everybody if that bad guy goes down. So we're trying to hit it from that level. Then, as you get into the new user stuff, there's obviously the usual teaching stuff that we can do. We can, prepare you for the game. We can put you into co-op versus AI games. We can put you into training modes, and we'll do all of that stuff. The toxic community on the back end, which we've seen in many games, in sim like this, where I have the ability, maybe even while I'm dead, to watch your play and I have some comments on how you're doing. Right? That's a real part of the game. It's still a real possibility here. So we'll have to see what we can do for that stuff. But we're starting right now with the core game mechanics and moving into the training stuff. Try to get the users into a place where they understand the experience, and the experience at a basic level is friendly to doing the obvious thing.
Right.
Like, it's okay to attack an enemy hero. It's okay just to kill minions as fast as possible, right? And make that core part of the game, and then we'll see where we have to go from there.
That's great.
Another cool part is on a level of just bringing people this experience, fulfilling the fantasy, as we like to say. There's a very, very clear goal in mind of bringing the best character possible, and maybe the game isn't going your way, but Thrall is a lot of fun to play, and maybe this is your best Thrall game, even if you lose it, because we put that much work into, like, you're going to be dropping totems, people are going to be being bloodlusted, whatever it is, and that experience is what we want to convey as well.
Some of my best games have been games that I've lost, honestly.
Yeah,
I've
where
had
you're
some
just on
really
streaks and
incredible
stuff.
games, or just games where the game is so tight, back and forth, right up to the end. I almost don't even care anymore whether you win or lose, because it was such a positive experience. I had one of those last night that was just like that.
That's awesome. That's great. All right, let's get another. This is at DJ Toke. All right, DJ, can we expect emotes such as /taunt or /dance?
Yes, we have been doing lots of dance animations. They're pretty.
Yeah. I think Arthas's Waltz is one of my favorites.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
He's very formal, Arthas. So.
Yeah, of course. That's great. Good news. Okay, let's dive right in again. At NecroSSX32, what do you think about the people saying your game is, quote, casual? Will this game have a competitive scene?
Well, it's kind of, I guess, what do you mean by competitive scene? Will it be, a hardcore esport? I have no idea.
Right.
That's up to the players, and that's always been up to the players for Blizzard games, whether or not we have an esport or not. We didn't sort of go out there and demand esport for Brood War. That just happened because the players saw something in there that worked for them. So we're going to try to create something that has all of those tools. It's got replays and observers and all of those things they need should they want to take it that way. But it's really up to the players. In terms of how competitive it is, it's pretty competitive, right? Like we yell quite a bit in the bullpen while we play. The list of emails I have in my inbox right now on balance is pretty significant, right? So players are pretty passionate about whether the game is balanced. And we're not even in beta yet, and they're already like, no, this isn't okay, right? So I'm feeling a lot of passion off of people in terms of how competitive they're being in the game. And I would use, I think, Hearthstone as an example, where if you look at a game like Hearthstone, when I first played it, my first thoughts were, well, it's pretty easy, but it doesn't seem very competitive to me, right? And then the more and more I played it, the more and more invested I got, the more I saw the hidden strategies, the more I saw the potential. Right. And so I think you're going to see the same thing with Heroes. I think you see players look at it from the outside and they go, well, I don't know. It doesn't seem as complicated. That much means it's not as competitive. Right. And we don't find that complexity and competition are tied. Right. You can be simpler and just as even more competitive sometimes, right? And chess would be an example, right?
Yeah,
So we want to hit that level, so it's possible, so that players will certainly be passionate about winning or losing games. But esports is really up to the players.
Yeah. And the time limit's huge. I am super stoked on that. Just 20 minutes being the ballpark because I can go into it with a casual mindset. I could go into it with the fact of, I just want to have fun. I don't want to have a workout. I don't want to come out of this exhausted and sweaty. And I really dig that I can play a game like that where I can kind of commit to it on certain levels and get an experience I really enjoy out of it.
Yeah.
But if you want to come out sweaty, you can. Right?
You can get wound up. Yeah,
We've seen that. We've seen that with the guys in the bullpen where they're just going at each other. We've had those designer versus artist battles where I've shoutcasted them like on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And those are mega competitive. You should see the designers are choosing their heroes like so carefully. And they're like, what does Joe D'Angelos usually play? I think he's going to play Tassadar again, right?
Yeah.
They'll very carefully, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go this lane against them. And they'll very carefully build out their comp and build out what they're going to do.
And Joe's on Skype yelling at other artists, breaking them down to their base component, telling them they're not good enough. It's
real.
Very,
it happens.
it's there.
Yeah,
it's
just
there.
to speak more to that too, like I sit a good ways away from the design team in the building that we sit in, and man, when it's playtime, when it's playtest time, you know when it's happening.
Yeah.
They've gotten remarkably vocal, and that's always fun. It's cool. All right, let's grab another. This is from @ISZOIA. Will there be a spectator client when the beta goes live for those wanting to host events?
I'm not entirely sure I know what the question is. Does this mean we'll have an observer mode?
I think it's probably
we totally will. We'll have
mode.
a lot of the same functionality that you have in StarCraft.
Okay.
We're very fortunate in being able to build off of that work, right, and use all of that knowledge that we've gained internally from having gone through this with StarCraft 2 for the last 3+ years. And
Right, because
so
it's built on the same.
it's built on the same technology
tech,
base, right? So we'll be able to use all of that stuff and then add to it as well.
Cool.
And I think that'll be give a lot of our guys out there the tools they need to do what they want.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. Another one from @Jesus in Internet. How will you deal with disconnected players?
Well, there's a number of different things we're going to try. I don't know for sure what the final solutions are going to be. If you're disconnecting often And well, first of all, if you disconnect, we're giving you nothing for that game. So we are going to have some sort of earned currency system that allows you to play in our free-to-play game and acquire the things you want to play with the game. And so if you disconnect, you're getting nothing. If you disconnect too often, we're going to start penalizing how much you get for future games. In addition, we're going to allow you to reconnect to the game that you disconnected from. So if you legitimately disconnected, like, oh, my router went down or whatever, you can get back into that game that you were just playing in. But it's obviously a concern. And obviously we also have the AI take over for players who've been AFK for a little bit, who've been absent. So we've got a suite of tools enabling us. Our hope is as well, and we'll see, of course, my hope is as well with a 20-minute game that your incentive to disconnect is lower.
Sure.
That you're like, well, maybe I can win anyway, or at least I'm going to get a bunch of earned currency if I play through this. I'm not going to have to sit here and suffer for an hour, right, to get that done. But we'll see. So we've got a variety of ideas to deal with it. But it's a real concern and it's a real issue, and we'll see how good our solutions are and what the level of the problem is and all of that. Once we get into a beta.
Cool. If you're joining us for the first time, guys, we got Dustin Browder, Phil Gonzalez here from the Heroes development team. We're taking your questions over Twitter. You can use hashtag HeroesQA. We're pulling more right now. This one from @TheSamNGUIN, Nguyen. I'm going to just guess on that one. With shared levels and XP, are you worried that the team who hits level 6 and get their, actually it's level 10, right? Level 10 and get their ultimates first has a big advantage?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I'm worried about it. It's definitely happening, right? Like it's real, right? Like what he describes is straight up true. Right. There's also a breakpoint at level 20 where we have the Storm's powers. We have Eye of the Storm and all of these powers that you can get access to, and these also have a big burst in power level. It's a discussion point for sure on the team. How much we like and don't like this. The for it, the pros who say they like this stuff, not the pro players, but the people who like this feature are saying that having those breakpoints creates strategy in the sense that if I'm up, because it doesn't last long. Like if I'm up level 10 and you're level 9, you got about 30 seconds, maybe less, to do something with that, right? And you need to make it happen right now. And so you'll see teams like, can we do something with this? Right. Can we coordinate some kind of attack? Like, should we go for a mercenary camp? Can we push a town? What do we do? And the other team will be saying, like, careful. They're 10, right? And you'll dodge the team fight as best you can, or look for somebody weak to pick them off before you close for the team fight. And so it creates a little bit of asymmetrical play in that moment, where it's not just banging together. The obvious downside is that maybe if you're too far separated, if I'm level 7 and you're level 10. I got a long way to go to get to that point. And then level 20 is the same kind of moment, right? Where you'll suddenly see, as happened to me the other day, I was playing and we hit 20, we had grabbed a tribute, and we had a grave golem. And this was game. It's like, you guys are in so much trouble right now. Here we come, we're coming for the core, right? And we're going and we're just charging that palace as hard as we can. And, so there's fun in that way. The downside, of course, is it could be too much. And so we'll see what happens. So far, it has not been a problem as long as the matches are pretty even. And we don't have great matchmaking yet because we don't have a beta. So right now we have a little private matchmaker we do where we kind of know everybody's MMR on the team, and we sort of put together little games. And when those work, everything works really well. But we'll have to see what happens when it gets into a live environment.
That's my favorite part of your shoutcast, actually, when those discrepancies happen and the buzz on the map is like, ultimates, and everyone's just kind of like,
what's going to happen? Can they do anything with it or not?
Well, it's interesting. This reminds me. So we're trying to get some more content out to you guys about the game, and you'll be hearing more about that soon. But we recorded a game the other day, which was just absolutely fascinating because this exact thing was happening. The team that was sort of ahead and winning got their ultimates, and of course, tribute spawned. It was on Cursed Hollow. And the team who wasn't level 10 wisely chose not to go for the tribute, but the problem was that was the tribute that triggered the curse. So instead of that, they went for the Grave Golem as a team, a 5-man team, this large mercenary that can do a lot of damage.
Very early Grave Golem too.
Yes, super risky move, and in fact, I don't know that the meta had ever been flexed that way.
We've never seen that before. That was literally the first time we've seen that.
And so they're going after this mercenary, this huge mercenary, while the other team is pushing their lane with the curse in place. And so it was a fascinating choice and decision, and I don't want to give away the end of the game to you because you'll be seeing it soon. But really awesome and interesting game.
There are ways, and we are seeing this now, there are ways to out-strategize in many cases what seems like an absolutely losing situation. And we've had that. I was in a game the other day where we were 2 levels down, and they were 18 to 16, and I was literally in Shepton's GG, like GG, right? And somebody's like, no, hold on. I'm like, oh, all right, dude, whatever.
Yeah.
And we went on to win this game, right? I'm like, I'm kind of, I should pay more attention, right? So there's a lot of volatility in the environment, the way we've built the game, at least so far, and we want to keep that volatility and make sure that there's always a way to sort of outthink your opponent.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, let's do it. This one from @blur_LOL. Are you guys going to introduce the Blizzard map editor to the MOBA genre? The ideas, things people can do would be huge for games. What are the thoughts on that?
I think that would be huge.
Would be.
I agree. I think it's a great suggestion. We've had this some at BlizzCon as well, and I know we're pretty big fans of it at Blizzard. I don't know exactly when. There's a few minor logistical issues to work out exactly when we want to do this in a free-to-play environment. How do we control how much space everybody has and all of that? But yeah, right. Like on Team One and Blizzard, we are super passionate about the mod makers and map makers getting access to the tools that we use. We've been doing it for years in all of our real-time strategy games, and it's been a huge win for us and for our community.
Sure.
So I think we definitely want to keep this going forward. I don't know how. I don't know exactly when. Will it come in the beta? Will it come, at the launch? Will it come post-launch? When will it arrive? But it's something we're really excited about.
Yeah, that's the coolest part about the tools is we can take ideas like the Haunted Mines we mentioned being so last minute, but this editor is strong enough to flex and make that happen, and those tools are great. And the more people can experience that and make their own experiences, awesome, because we like doing that.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, let's do it. We got a little bit more time, guys, so get your questions. Pound Heroes QA out. This one from @MZ Gubea. I'm just going for it. Is Heroes of the Storm going to have a Mac client? Also, is it going to be free to play?
Yes and yes.
Double yes. That's really not
all I
much
got.
more to say. Double yes. Okay, let's grab another. This one from Alexander. Actually, it's the actual thing is @UMNUSMAN. Alexander Umnus. How do the talents work? Are they different for each hero, or for each hero?
So right now we're sharing a decent amount of talents across the heroes. So you might have a plus 20 attack damage talent. That will appear on a variety of heroes. It's fairly generic talent. But we have the capability, and we are starting to spread out more and more to have each of the heroes have more and more custom talents built throughout their talent tree. There'll be examples of heroes like Abathur that need a complete rewrite. Like they just need their own talent tree. They almost can't take anything from anybody else anywhere because they're such a unique hero in how they play. We also want to be able to do things like, which the talent tree will allow us to do. So at one point we were talking about an Elite Tauren Chieftain build, which was cooldown based because he's got his guitar. Sure. We thought it'd be cool if there was a way I could reduce the cooldown. So I'm kind of rocking out as I'm moving through the environment, right? I'm just playing, woo, I'm just doing my thing, right? That's awesome. And so we were talking about, well, we'll do this cooldown based build. It'll be awesome. And at one point we had a shared talent tree. It was shared across all heroes. And we're like, we can't do it because if ETC gets the cooldown build, then so does Nova.
Sure.
And Nova with any cooldown build could be ridiculous because she's largely controlled by her cooldowns, how much damage she can kick out. So if she was, snipe because she could do this, it'd be absolutely insane. So we kind of gave up on that. And then we came back to this, talent tree per hero kind of concept, like, whoa, we could do that. Yeah. So it's a little bit diverged now. I think you can expect it to get more and more diverged as time goes on. Yeah. I could see us adding talents for many years to come. I mean, you could be 4 years from now, right? And you come in to play, Arthas tonight, and he's got a new row of talents down the side, and then you can choose, do I want to bring those talents into the game with me, or I don't think the designers did a good job, I'm not going to do it. Like whatever you want to do, right? Sure. It's totally up to you. I'm going to take that one, but not that one. Like you'll be able to pick. And so I think the talent tree gives us a huge amount of potential. Sure. And it just gets as big as we want it to be, as makes sense. If we get to the point where there's so many talents it's confusing and it's not helping us, maybe we can scale back, but that hasn't been our experience so far.
Yeah, and some of these talents we are supporting with art as well. Yeah. So Stitches, we showed at BlizzCon, his hook would go a greater distance, but there's other characters like Sergeant Hammer who pilots the siege tank, and when the siege tank goes into a siege mode, if you've chose Hover Siege, the transformation looks different, and now the siege tank is doing long distance damage and moving, and you have art to signify that, and that stuff's fun as well. We have that for many, many heroes.
That's really cool. Yeah, more of that. That's great. Okay, guys, we got time for a few more, so please go ahead, get your questions out there. Pound Heroes QA. This one from @Joey Mostard. Could you explain the shared experience and gold income with your team? I guess just looking for a little more information on exactly how that works.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Sure.
So we don't have any gold.
Yeah, no gold.
It's just experience points for your team, and the experience point gives you levels, and the levels allow you to get access to more and more talents, more and more power for you and your team. So what happens is anybody who is near a kill, whether it's a minion kill or a hero kill, will get experience for their team. So as long as you have coverage across all of the lanes, near all of the action, you're getting the maximum amount of EXP possible from straight fighting. If you don't have somebody near it, then you're not getting XP from things happening. You know, so if there's nobody in our bottom lane, for example, because we're all concentrated, say, middle and top lanes, then anything going on down there, we're collecting nothing. So it really encourages you to spread out. But obviously, at some point, you're going to have a team fight, and you're going to want to cluster up, or even mini fights, and you're going to want to cluster up for that. Anything you do in terms of town kills, mercenary kills, again, add experience points that help out your team. And one of the things this does for us, it does a couple of things that are really great. One of the things it does is it allows heroes like Abathur to exist. So you got a hero who doesn't even exist in lane. He's got no ability to fight. He's totally a commander hero. It's fine. As long as he is contributing meaningfully, which he should be, then he's really helping his team, and they can do a lot of damage and be a very effective group together. The second thing it does is it allows a lot of map objectives and a lot of cross-lane movement. So if I'm in the bottom lane as Uther, and I'm healing, and I'm seeing you're playing Stitches, right? And Stitches has a lot of ability to heal himself, and I'm like, you know what, Stitches, you're okay. You don't need me down here. Oh, Demon Hunter's getting just rolled up there. What am I going to do? I can just leave the lane and go help. I'm not losing a bunch of levels. I'm not losing access to gold. My team isn't falling behind because you're still covering the bottom lane. So we've still got that experience points rolling into our coffers, and we're still getting that benefit. So if I need to leave to go help, Demon Hunter in mid lane, awesome. Encourages teamwork, encourages us to work together, allows me to be a more effective support character. If I need to leave, maybe Demon Hunter's doing fine, I need to leave to go grab a tribute, or I need to leave to go and collect some coins for Blackheart on Blackheart's Bay. I can do that without feeling like I'm falling behind. You go. I don't want to go. You don't have that kind of moment. It's just we're working as a group, and as long as you're covering it, I'm good to be free range, and that gives us a lot more strategy to the game. And we saw that when we were playing without this system. We were playing it with individual hero levels. Something cool would happen on the map that would be important for a map objective, and people would go, in a minute. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, I'm afraid I'm going to fall too far behind, or I did it last time. And now it's like, no, I'm the guy who goes and does that. Just keep us covered. Or you'll see weird stuff too, where you'll have like 5 guys pushing one lane, and you'll have 3 guys holding, and they're playing real cagey. Right? Just like, no, I'm not giving up a kill. No, I'm using my towers, I'm using my gates, I'm using every little advantage I get not to get killed here. Meanwhile, that team of 3 has 2 other guys in 2 other lanes. And they're hoovering up the experience points, and they're slowly gaining an advantage. So now it becomes a race. Can that 5-man team do enough damage to make their 5-man push count? Or does the 3-man who's holding them play cagey enough that they get enough experience points, they actually start out-leveling the other guys. And so you get really, again, asymmetrical play, where it's not just 5 guys slamming together at the same level. It's really all about sort of this asymmetrical experience and creating sort of unique strategic problems for players.
Oh, that's very, very interesting. Okay, a couple more minutes here. Yep. Let's do, I guess, 2 or 3 more questions. We'll see how they go. We're having a blast. It's all good. At Pastasovos. Will Uther,
It's a good job, man.
Will Uther still walk away at launch? Oh, I mean, it's sort of a rhetorical question, right? I mean, it's sort of like...
So this is a reference to our BlizzCon shout matches. We had John Hodgson playing as Uther, one of our game designers, and he was playing so well he could not be killed. I mean, Uther is sort of designed as a plate mail wearing paladin style healer. She's pretty tough, right? But yeah, John was playing so cagey and so well he couldn't be killed. I often joke that when I die as Uther, there's something broken about the game. Like, what is the screen? I don't understand. Like, I don't see the screen as Uther. He's still pretty hard to kill. I had a couple moments the other day where I was hunting him down, and I just, you know what, just let him go. Like, just go. I didn't want to deal with you anymore. I'm actually, at one point, we actually saw a bubble hearth. This was probably 6 months ago now. It's classic sort of WoW, right? Where there's like 5 of us, and Uther just pops his bubble, and he starts, I'm going to pour it home. We're like, no, this is not happening again.
Goodbye.
Okay, guys, a couple more here. This one from @taffing_about. Are you guys taking steps to make Heroes as exciting to watch as it is to play? Spectator question.
Our biggest focus, I think, right now is making it great to play. I think that's what we want to hit absolutely first. And I think that's going to be a big, big focus of this game. It's a little bit different from StarCraft in the StarCraft sense. The StarCraft was really about all watching. That was really the did everything for that. We put a stranglehold on the art guys about what you guys could and couldn't do, right? So I think in this one, we're going to start, we may get there, but we're starting really with more of a focus on making it a great play experience. Make it something you just really want to sit down tonight and play. Yeah. And then we'll sort of work backwards more into the watching experience, which so far has been pretty successful for us. But I think we got a lot of room to grow there. You know, when we saw the stuff that was happening at BlizzCon, I'm like, this is cool. I have some comments. You know, that was sort of where we were at, right? Like, I don't see what's happening there right now. You know, these are guys who know the game, you know, who would have comments. So I think there's more room for us to grow there.
And in the same sense of StarCraft, one of the places we played a lot, though, was adding the physics objects, like the physics desks and stuff, and we're putting physics on a lot more of just, you know, environmental doodads on the map that kind of just get blown up because someone did an ability that knocked over all these barrels. And that stuff is a ton of fun on the observation level, because when you're playing, you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
You don't get to appreciate it, whereas as a viewer, you're like, okay, that was awesome. Nova just flopped into a minecart.
Oh, oh, yeah. When you kill somebody, you see the body just go scattering. It is the most satisfying thing you've ever done. You see Diablo just, just completely flapper, like, oh, yeah.
Good night, really Prince.
Exactly.
That's great. Okay, guys, this is going to be our final question from @DaddyChris. Let's say I pick a Diablo champion. Will I be able to wear the StarCraft suit? I think this is a question about skins. Yeah, I mean, I guess... What's the expectation when it comes to the character you're choosing and what they can look like?
The universes crossing over is a ton of fun, and we showed Medic Uther at BlizzCon. We've taken the Barbarian from Diablo and put them in a WoW Warrior armor set, and stuff like that where you kind of look and you're like, that's great, because the Barbarian is very similar to a Warrior, and we don't have to always have a WoW character in Warrior armor. We can say, yeah, maybe this Demon Hunter from Diablo is wearing a Hunter outfit from WoW, or they're wearing, you know, Nova has an Amazon skin, and that stuff is really, really cool.
Super fun.
Because the ability kits are very solid, and that crossover always just makes you feel like, yeah, this is the Nexus, this is that experience.
Yeah, Infernal Stitch is my favorite skin right now.
Oh, totally.
When I went to get Stitches the other day, I'm like, I could play Psycho Stitches, which is supposed to be the one I'm supposed to like the most. We've all agreed, right? And everybody said that at BlizzCon too, and I saw Infernal Stitch, like, no, this is happening, right? I gotta get Demonic Stitches, and so it's been really cool to see those skins.
Yeah, great guys. Thank you for your questions, everyone out there. Any final thoughts or words, anything you feel like you haven't had a chance to say that you just needs to get said?
I'm having a ton of fun making this game. I mean, I've been a fan of Blizzard games my whole life, and bringing the characters to life with the designers has been a really, really rewarding experience. Every time we sit down and jam out a new one, it's like, okay, let's talk about this hero. Let's talk about Thrall. And everyone kind of says, like, yeah, you remember when he did this one thing? And that's a really, really fun job to have, and it's a fun thing to bring to people and say, here's Thrall, what do you think? And we're geeked, they get geeked. It's cool.
It's cool. I just like to say thanks to everybody at BlizzCon. You know, these guys came out again. They gave us a lot of great feedback. They let us watch them play the game and see how they reacted to us. You know, every BlizzCon that we've brought this game to has improved this game substantially. And it happened again. You know, we went to BlizzCon, we got a ton of great feedback about how to make the game better, and it's been a huge benefit to us on development. Not only has it geeked us up and encouraged us to keep going with some of the more risky decisions we've been making, but we also got a lot of really good ideas how we can make the game better.
That's awesome. All right, guys, thanks again for being here with us. I hope you have a fantastic holiday. I hope you have great plans in place. We're going to do a lot more of this, at least that's our hope, to do a lot more of this kind of content, as well as getting you an opportunity to see the game more as we move towards that ever desirable beta stage. So hang with us. We hope we will keep it an interesting and exciting ride for you. Follow us on our website, heroesofthestorm.com. You can also catch us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at /BlizzHeroes. That's sort of the all-for-one URL that you could find us on in the social space. I think that's about it. We'll check you next time. Be well. Bye.